Hello everyone, welcome back to the another session on principles of programming languages. We'll continue to learn about abstract data types, and today we'll be going to talk about abstract data types in Ruby programming language. So if you just recollect the previous things what we were discussed, so we were talking about ADTs and we were discussing about the few programming languages which support abstraction as a main feature. And the programming languages what we were covered so far as we were discussed about Ada and C++ and Java, C#. Now we'll be going to talk about Ruby. The reason to talk about these languages are to give a difference in between this set of language and this language. The difference is what? These languages what we covered are belongs to a category of static typed language. The mean of the static typed language is what? If I define a data type in the program that it is set to be integer, then I cannot change the data type depending upon my requirement. Yes, that's what static typed language. The data type will remain constant. You cannot change any kind of data type as per the requirement. Now Ruby is not belongs to static typed language as I have differentiated here in the set. Ruby belongs to dynamic typed language. The mean of this is, though I have mentioned integer, so I don't mention actually integer. If I wanted to give integer data into my stack or into my data or whatever thing I am writing a program, so if I wanted to give integer later in the second execution, I can change my integer to float. I can change float to character. As long as it is not static, I can give any kind of data type. That is what Ruby feature. There are many differences we can write from this set to this set. The first difference is what? This set is static typed language and this is what? Dynamic typed language. Second thing is what? There is also a similarity. I can find similarity in between Ruby and Java in the case of garbage collection. I can also compare with Ruby and C++, same in the case of memory allocation or memory allocation. As C++ uses manual, which are constructor and destructor to allocate memory, to deallocate memory, Ruby also uses constructor and destructor. That things we'll see from this video. We'll talk about the feature of Ruby, then we'll come for these differences to know more about the same. And I'm sure that the differences you can find out throughout the lecture. You can differentiate in between Ruby and the existing languages what we covered so far. Now, so Ruby provides support for abstract data types through its classes. So it is the first similarity with C++ and Java. C++ will provide ADTs or abstraction through classes and interfaces. Java also provides through classes. Even Ruby provides through classes. But the class what we were taking into Ruby is different from the class what we write from C++ and Java. The difference is what? Java uses classes or static. That means once if I define a member into the Java, member into the C++, I don't add any kind of data, I don't delete any kind of data. Correct? We say those are static. Now, even in the case of class, Ruby classes are dynamic. I can add data members into Ruby class, I can delete data members into Ruby class. So, the first is what? Ruby is a dynamic typed language. The second is what? Ruby classes are dynamic. Now, we'll continue. In terms of capabilities, Ruby classes are similar to those in C++ and Java, as we were discussed just now. So it provides ADT with encapsulation and information hiding. In Ruby, a class is defined in a compound statement, opened with the class reserved word and closed with the end. That means, now we'll write some class stack will end with the end keyword. This is what class. We'll not use any compound statement of something like this braxes. We'll not use in Ruby. And the names of instance variables will begin with @ symbol, as you can compare this with Perl. Perl and Ruby are special kind of languages where variables, data members will get start with the special identifier depending upon the identified strategy. If it is a variable, we'll give this at the rate. If it is an array, we'll give the other symbol. If it is a dictionary, we'll give another symbol. So each and everything will get differentiated with the symbols. So according to this, class instance variables will get instantiated with the letter of at the rate. Now, instance methods have the same syntax as functions in Ruby. They begin with the def reserved word, definition reserved word, and end with end. Class methods are distinguished from instance method by having the class name appended to the beginning of their names with a period of separator. So that we'll see in the syntax how it will get separated. Now, for example, in a class named stack, a class method would begin with stack. So the methods of class will begin with the same class name. Constructors in Ruby are named initialize because the constructor cannot be overloaded. So basically we'll be having this problem, right, overloading problem, because in previous languages, if my class name is stack, I'll take constructor name also stack. So in Ruby, we do not have that similarity. We don't give class name as constructor name. We'll be giving a class name with any kind of name. Constructor name should be with initialize. Classes in Ruby are dynamic. This is what important, dynamic. So in the sense that members can be added at any time. This feature you will not see in previous set of languages. This is done by simply including additional class definitions that specify new members. Moreover, even predefined classes of the language, such string can be extended. Now, so this is what the example of a class, how we'll define a class in Ruby. Class is a reserved word to define a class, and we'll end with end keyword, and instance methods of a class will start with the definition. Definition method 1, this definition will end with this end keyword, this class will end with this end keyword, fine. So this is what a sample structure to show you how class will get created in the Ruby. And so this class could be extended by adding a second method 2 with a second class definition. So this is what class and method will be initiated in the Ruby program. And now there is one more uniqueness of Ruby, that you can also remove a method using remove method. That we'll see. Method can also be removed from a class, because we told it is a dynamic language, right? Dynamic means we'll have a dynamic classes. We'll delete a method and we'll add a member, we'll delete a method or member. So that's what it's said to be a dynamic category. Methods can also be removed from a class. This is done by providing another class definition in which the method to be removed is sent to the method remove method. Let's say that I wanted to remove a method which is method 1. So let's say I have defined a class. Now class some stack, definition some method 1 I have created, end and end. Let's say that I wanted to delete this method 1. Then what I have to do? Then I will pass this method 1 to remove method. Remove method parenthesis method 1. Now what happens? This method 1 will get removed from the class. The dynamic classes of Ruby are another example of language designer trading readability and as a consequence reliability for flexibility. Compared to all the set of languages whatever we discussed so far, Ruby is having more flexibility. Yes, it is true that will harm the readability, but we'll be giving a more flexibility to the user to create a new members into the class and to even manage the methods whatever they are in the class. Allowing dynamic changes to classes clearly adds flexibility. This is what a feature of Ruby. Yes, of course we have a drawback that will harm the readability. That is what drawback. To determine the behavior of a class at particular point in a program, one must find all of its definitions in the program and consider all of them. So these are what the features of Ruby to write a program. Now let's see about information hiding, how it will provide. So we know one common point from abstraction. Abstraction will get supported in object-oriented languages, whatever we listed from previous. So in that, there are two parameters which are used commonly to provide data abstraction. Those two parameters are encapsulation and information hiding. Encapsulation will make sure to learn about how class or how package, how interface, how constructors will get created. Information hiding will talk about the access control specifiers. Now, access control for methods in Ruby is dynamic. So, access violations are detected only during the execution. The default method access is public, but it can also be protected or private. So, here if you see the other programming languages, there are languages where it will have a default access control specifier as private. So, here it is default as public. If I do not give any kind of access control specifier, it means that I am making it as a public. If I wanted to put an access specifier, it means that I wanted to restrict that data from some kind of users. There are two ways to specify the access control, which use functions with the same names as the access levels, private and public. One way is to call the appropriate function without parameters. This resets the default access for subsequently defined methods. We'll see how this will get created in a class. Now look at here, that I wanted to hide the data of a method, then for that particular method only we will keep this private. Done? So this is the way how we will provide information hiding in a programming language of Ruby. So you can also check this code. There I wanted to, this is what earlier we were given the complete access for private. So here I am just passing the method 7 to be a private. Both are the same. The meaning will be same, but accessing of a function call is different. So in both the cases I have used private. Now, so this is what for an instance variable named something will get a value. So how that will get created, that we have shown in this code. So there are two things, this also we have to discuss, that getters and setters will be used in Ruby to get the value. So that's what we will do actually from constructors. The beauty of the feature of constructor is what? Will initialize the values which variables are defined as an instance of the class. Or else if I defined a data member in the class, the value of that data member will come through with a constructor. Now notice that getters are given the name of instance variables minus the @, the names of setter methods are the same as those of corresponding getters, except they have an equal sign attached. Getters and setters can be implicitly generated by the Ruby system by including calls to attribute reader and attribute writer respectively in the class definition. The parameters to these are the symbols of the attribute names as we illustrated here. Now attribute reader will read this value, attribute writer will send the value into the variable. So these are what two attribute things which will users to pass a value. Now, so this is what stack ADT will be written using of Ruby. How we were written, you just have a look, you will understand. So we will justify whatever we spoke before of this video. We told it is what dynamic programming language. The meaning of dynamic is what? Nowhere I mentioned the data type of it. If I wanted to give only integer, we'll give integer. If I wanted to give float, we'll give float. Now that's the reason you nowhere find what kind of data type it is. That's what it is, a dynamic typed language. Now, so this is what constructor. So I told that we'll use a initialize. Every method, every constructor will begin with the word of definition. Every class, every method will end with the keyword of end. So we were taking stack reference array.new of 100, maximum length is equal to 100. So this is what the methods of Ruby and so this is what the way you write Ruby program to implement stack ADT. Thank you all.